lots of planning over a lifetime, from vacations, weddings, hosting dinner parties, renovating our home. Perhaps, we're an empty nester and our kids are moving back home, or perhaps you have to move in with your kids or move your parents in with you. You get what I'm saying? We do a lot of planning over a lifetime. The list can go on and on. But what about planning for death, for that of a loved one or your own death? That's what we're going to talk about today. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Ageless Glamour Girls podcast, where we talk all things aging on this beautiful, challenging but transforming journey, ageless aging journey. I'm your host, Marquita Curtis Haynes. I'm the CEO and the founder of the lifestyle brand Ageless Glamour Girls, designed to celebrate, embrace, empower, and motivate women age 50 plus. Now, we're continuing our Ageless Book Author series with a brilliant book on preparing for death. We're talking end of life planning. Meet Alua Arthur. She's author of the New York Times best-selling book, Briefly, Perfectly Human. Love the title, Briefly, Perfectly Human. And welcome, Alua. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm happy to be here with you today.
And I have to say, happy belated birthday, Ageless Glamour Girl Rising.
Rising, 46. I'm 4 years away from 50.
Oh my gosh, what a sweet age. Oh my God, I love that age. I love my 50s and my 40s and all of that. Yeah. Now, and also congratulations on publishing your first book. It's a very successful memoir, and the book is so good. Oh my goodness. Everybody has to read this, seriously. But again, thanks for being here. I want to start with your childhood. We know that our childhoods can impact so much of our life, right? And tell us about yours. You grew up in Ghana before moving to Colorado. So tell us about your childhood and how it has shaped who you are today.
Well, I was born in Ghana. My parents had been in the States prior to my birth. They had my older sister in Connecticut before they went back to Ghana. My dad was a member of parliament, which got overthrown in a military coup. And so we fled from our home under cover of night because soldiers were coming to the building where we lived to capture all of the military and the members of parliament that were there. And unbeknownst to me, because I was 3 years old at the time, my very first memories are of that flight. I remember running down the back hallway. I remember people shoving clothes in cars. There was a lot of fast movement. Mm-hmm. Only as an adult, when I talk to my parents, did I understand that a coup was happening. And that was my very first memory. But through all of the chaos and the emotional distress and the fear of death, I felt really calm. My dad was holding my hand. I felt absolutely grounded. I felt taken care of. And sometimes I kind of link it to the beginnings, the genesis of my capacity to do death work, in that in the midst of emotional chaos, in the midst of fear of death, I felt grounded and safe and calm.
Right.
I will forever be grateful for that.
Yeah. Again, help shaping your life, right? You are what some people consider the toughest job on God's green earth. You're a death doula. What exactly is that?
Can I say I think the toughest job is a teacher? I think those that teach elementary school, bless their hearts. Please send them my love and appreciation, because
I'm surrounded by teachers that I agree. I'm the only one in the family, one of the few who didn't go into teaching. But yes.
It's a tough job. I mean, it's a joke because I teach death doulas now, but I don't teach elementary school students, 8th grade. I think that would be tough as well. Death doulas is a whole different ballgame. But I'm a death doula. I do consistent and thorough end-of-life planning. Death doulas are non-medical and holistic support persons for the dying person and the circle of support through the process. And when I say the dying person, I mean anybody who has come into recognition of their mortality. That means even people that are healthy, but have accepted the fact that one day they'll die and they want to do some comprehensive end-of-life planning. Death doulas can support with that. We can help people work through their fears of or anxieties around death. When somebody knows what it is that they're going to be dying of, we can help them create the most ideal death for themselves under the circumstances. And then after a death, we can help family members wrap up affairs of their loved one's life. So we're doing full-scale, emotional, practical, spiritual support for the dying person and the entire circle.
That's a lot.
That's a great job.
A lot. But it's so needed. It's
Yeah,
so needed. Wow. So that's a death doula, everyone who's never heard of it. Some people have not heard of the death doula. And
many.
so, I've ran across this and I started explaining to people what a death doula does. So I've read where you're a recovering attorney.
Yes.
What does that mean? And how did you leave that career and pursue one as a death doula? How did you get here?
Well, I spent the early part of my professional life practicing law at the Legal Aid Foundation of Los Angeles. It was, I will just say very plainly, great work. Many people work so hard in legal services every day to provide services to those that can't afford it. Yet
Mhm,
I found for myself butting up against the systems of oppression that keep people with low income in that same tax bracket over the course of their lifetimes. I found that system to be absolutely crushing to my spirit. I
mm,
wanted to get underneath and figure out what the issue was. It's one thing to give somebody $256 a month, which is what a fully grown, able-bodied person in LA can receive. It's one thing to give them that money, but it's another
mhm,
thing to work through the how they got there and
mhm,
their relationship with money, perhaps any trauma,
mhm.
healing, abuse, anything that led to those circumstances that they find themselves in. I really wanted to support people in healing, and I couldn't. I'm very sensitive by nature. There was no space for it. I had to button up and argue what was legal as opposed to what I felt was just or what I
Mm,
thought would have been right in the
mhm,
circumstance. And it
mhm,
crushed me.
mhm,
A depression blossomed. I was diagnosed with a major depressive episode, a clinical depression,
mhm.
and I took a leave of absence from work. And during that leave of absence is where death work really started to show itself to me.
Wow, because you're an empath. I just heard something you
100%
said. 100%. Yeah, yeah.
through and through.
And I didn't find out till years later that I'm that way because I'm the biggest crybaby in the world. You know, everything, but I can see someone on TV, a kid is killed, my heart
Oh,
physically hurts. It's like,
yeah,
whoa, stop
yeah.
crying, grow up. It's not a thing of point of growing up. But yes, so you made that switch. Now, in your book, you say that death is one of the most intimate acts we can go through. But at the end of life, there are three questions that we should ask ourselves.
Yes.
What are those questions?
Those questions relate to our relationships in particular. They are, who have we loved? How have we loved? And were we loved? I find that as people get closer to the end of life, they're really concerned with their relationships. They want to see how they related to other people while they lived.
Right.
We stack up so many accomplishments and care about a lot of material possessions for many people while we're living, and yet when we're dying, it kind of whittles down to the basics, which is love, like how we expressed it, how we received it, etc.
Mhm.
I find that many people want to heal their relationships heading into the end of their life, and the death doula can support by helping people answer these questions for themselves.
Wow, good, good, good. And that leads me to my next question. I was thinking about that. When you're with people, is there a theme? For example, when I was younger, I used to say I have no regrets. But as
Yeah.
I got older, of course you're going to have regrets, and it's okay. So what are you hearing from your dying clients, as far as their unspoken regret or their vulnerabilities? What do they want to get out in the end?
Well, sometimes it's about, there's a few categories. A big one, a major one is about their relationships. Not
Hmm.
saying I love you sooner, not saying I'm sorry sooner, or
Mm,
please forgive me, or thank you, or you hurt me, or any of those things that maybe we keep hidden because they're hard to say. And so people often have regrets about not dealing with their relationship sooner. Another major area of regret is around people, about how they spent their time, about
mm,
wishing that they'd either spent more time with their children or, in some cases, less time with their children,
hmm.
or more
Right.
time pursuing a hobby, or more time pursuing a particular career path, or
Hmm.
it's just around how they spent their time. And the last major bucket of regret sits in how they lived authentically. People
Mm,
that were not true to who they were while they were living, and
hmm.
that shows up in a variety of ways. I think that's part of how I ended up in that major depressive episode before, is I wasn't living authentically. And I find that many people just put their heads down and they avoid all those signals within themselves that tell them, hey, this
Mm,
isn't for you or this ain't working. And they just keep pushing. And then
mhm.
it's too late. And then they look back and realize that they never lived for themselves. They were living for other people. So that's one of the major areas that I think people really grapple with when they're nearing the end of life.
No, okay, and you mentioned forgiveness too. I was thinking about this earlier. Forgiveness has to be a huge part of that.
Yeah, massive, massive. That
Mhm.
fits in the relationship category. Like, what the things that I'm still holding on to or the things that I wish other people would have done differently, I can use my time while I'm living, if it's of value to me, to actually speak those aloud and get to the bottom of them while I still can and while the person who hurt me can.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So people with illnesses, and they've been given a time or whatever, they're going to pass or whatever. Ah, that's really hard. I mean, for me, of course, but not for you. But it could be hard for you. But when you meet someone, when someone is staring down death per se, um, a lot of us don't know what to say to people when they tell you, "Oh, I'm going to die and I have 6 months to live," but whatever. What do you say to people, to those people?
I think the best thing to say when we don't know what to say is that we don't know
Mhm.
what to say. I think
Mm.
we need to be careful not to speak any platitudes, any of those easily accessible phrases that we know, you know, like, "I can't imagine what it's like to be you." Of course you can't
Oh,
imagine.
oh
That's
my
so
gosh.
crushing. That's so crushing. They don't wanna be in that scenario either, so why would you imagine it for yourself? Often
Exactly.
it's awful. Any of the platitudes that we wanna go to naturally, I think, are things that we should stay away from. I think we need to pay attention to what it feels like in our bodies at that
Mhm.
moment. Often it's confusion or sadness. I had a friend recently tell me that he has a very advanced cancer, and I look back on how I reacted in the moment, and I immediately put my hands over my eyes and covered my head, and I said, "Oh, no." I was like, "Gosh, this is hard to hear, it hurts a lot to hear this. I'm sad, I'm scared I'm gonna lose you." And he
Mm.
said to me too. I think when we respond authentically, vulnerably with how we actually are in the moment, rather than when we're thinking through the right thing to say, is probably a lot more effective and a lot more real because it opens the space for actual vulnerability.
Mm.
Platitudes end up building walls between us, but when we can be honest, I think that's a great
Mhm.
place to start.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm. And we talked about your leaving, the legal field and living your life authentically. Now, I also read where to get the way you got started also is death in your own family. Some of you lost someone very close to you. And I also would love for you to talk about the bus, how you met a complete stranger on the bus, and that helped lead to what you're currently doing as well.
Sure. When I went on that leave of absence due to clinical depression at legal aid, I took a trip to Cuba. And the way that I got there is through some miraculous serendipity. But I went to Cuba and
Mhm.
I met a fellow traveler on a bus. She was German and she had uterine cancer. And she was traveling to see the top 6 places in the world she wanted to see before she died.
Mhm.
And that struck me. She was just about my age. I didn't know anybody around my age that had died, nobody close anyway. It was
Mhm.
it was, um, it was shocking to me. It was like, jarring to my spirit. That's a better way to put it.
Mhm.
I asked her a lot of questions about her life. I asked her a lot of questions about her death, what she feared, what she wanted, what she made of her life thus far. We went in, we went in for a stranger
Perfect stranger.
and perfect
Mhm.
stranger, but there was an intimacy that was formed, maybe in the way
Mhm.
that you can be whoever you wanna be when you're in a faraway
Mm.
country.
Right. Right.
Absolutely, but I think also in the way that we were both bare, we were both so open, me as a result of depression and her as a result of her illness. So we were just in it together and we talked so much and we so much became clear to me also that when I looked at my life through the perspective of my death, when I considered that I would die, I could die based on my depression or that I would die one day, I
Mhm.
started to think about the life that I'd lived thus far. And I didn't like the deathbed version of myself based on the life that I'd currently lived. Thought if I
Mm.
continue in this trajectory, this is who I'm gonna meet at my deathbed. That's
Mhm.
not who I wanna meet. Who I would
Mhm.
like to meet is somebody else. Now what do I gotta do in order to get there? So I had to
Mhm.
essentially retrofit my life to meet my death in some way. Not long after I came back from Cuba, my brother-in-law, Peter St. John, husband of my older sister, Buzma St. John, became ill, and
Mhm.
I got to support him through the last 2 months of his life. He was sick
Mm.
for just 6 months. It was a very, very fast-moving illness.
Mm.
I will forever be grateful for the opportunity to care for him in his dying. It it
Wow.
increased my capacity for compassion.
Wow.
It helped me see what it's like when people are moving through the system, and I didn't like what I saw, and so I wanted to change something, and so I did.
Oh, wow. Wow, that's a tough one. Yeah, yeah. So that was your first, your family, your sister and her her child, right? I think they had one child. That
Yes,
was
Leah.
your first client, per se. Yeah,
Absolutely.
and you need people around. You really do. In my opinion, because you're at a loss of words. And if someone passes unexpectedly, of course, you have to deal with all that at the last minute. But even when someone is leaving you,
Yeah.
that doesn't make organizing everything any easier. It's like
No.
you need people, you need a tribe, we need you, someone like you. Now, especially, my brand celebrates women, 50 plus. And as we age, as we get older, we know that we'll lose people. You start losing people around you. It is what it is. And so I want to specifically talk about people with dementia, Alzheimer's,
Great.
which is what my mother suffered through. And it's like, how do you get to them when you're caregiving one of them, a patient like that? What do you do? Like, do you bring pictures in? What do you do when you talk to them? Do you surround them with love? Do you hold them? How do you move through that?
I think one of the most important things to remember when caregiving somebody with Alzheimer's and dementia is that their brain is doing things that we cannot see. And we want it to work in the way that it's always worked, the way that we're relating to them in that way. Yet
Mhm,
that the brain isn't doing the same thing that it always did.
mhm,
It's important that we go along with them on their journey and their reality.
mhm.
I find people get frustrated, like, no, mom, that's not your husband, that's your grandson. Or they
Right,
get
right.
frustrated when
Mhm.
their mom is now, eating her cereal with a tube of chapstick rather than with a spoon.
Oh,
And it's
yeah. Mhm.
heartbreaking,
It
absolutely.
is.
And I can understand caregiving for somebody day in and day out where their function is slowly diminishing. It can be very, very difficult. But I think it's best that we try to inhabit their reality as much as possible, that we go along the ride with them.
Right,
Obviously, at some point, switch out the chapstick for a spoon so that they can
right,
actually eat.
right.
Um, but if we can give ourselves grace for their process and for our own process, because the
Mhm.
frustration is something that ends up becoming really, I think, the biggest hurdle for people to overcome when
Wow.
caregiving people with Alzheimer's and dementia. And frustration also that they're declining and they
Right,
sometimes revert to a childlike state. But this
right,
is your parent, or this is somebody that you've known to be self-sufficient, and now
mm,
she can't remember to wash herself.
right,
It's tough.
right.
It's
It's
tough.
very tough. It's very. Now I can talk about that. That's what happened to my mother. But um, I remember we had just put her in a nursing home because we had been caring for it at my sister's house and my brother's house, and we had put her in a nursing home. And then, uh, like 3 weeks later, I go home for Christmas and we bring her from the nursing home and she has this little cough. And so we take her in to the hospital, to the emergency room. And I'm sitting there with her and she looked at me and she's like, "Am I going to die?"
Mm,
And I don't know how, of course I responded, "Of course, no, mom, you're not going to
mm,
die. I'm here
mhm,
for you," and blah, blah, blah.
mhm.
But you never know. And that's why that brings me to another point in your book when you talk about um, adaptability.
Yes.
And you say people who live with these diseases, such as Alzheimer's, multiple sclerosis, etc., and you care for them. And that's when you're forced to become adapters, right?
Yes.
You have to become adapters, which you say is central to the human experience. I love that. I love that.
It is. Absolutely. I think caregiving people with degenerative diseases
Mhm,
forces that upon us. You kind of have to learn on the job, and many of us struggle with adapting to where their current reality is. In
mhm.
the book, I talk about the practice of starting sentences with today to help ground us in what's happening today.
Oh, I love
N-
that.
Not where your mom used to be, not who she was, not what she did yesterday, but where she is
Right.
today, who you are today, your capacity today, her capacity today.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm,
and also, I think that it's important. I was saying before that we need to give ourselves a lot of grace, but
mm,
also to remember that we humans are constantly adapting to change. We've been doing it since the moment we came out the womb. We learned
mhm,
how to breathe different. We grew teeth. We learned how to eat food. We learned how to eat solid food. Like, we've been adapting constantly. Our bodies
mhm.
adapt, our brains adapt. We burn dinner sometimes. Our tires go flat. Our cell phone dies. We can't
Right.
get on the podcast interview when we thought we were going to. And we figure out how to adapt. Like, we just get it together and keep it
You just
pushing.
get it. Oh my God. You just
Yeah.
get it together. Like I tell people, it's called life. Life can be messy and
Very, very.
adaptability.
Yeah.
You just try to move forward as much as you can. Now, I want to get into quickly your company.
Yes.
And when you think about it, I mean, a lot of us, the profession of doula, being a death doula, goes back. And, it didn't have a name to it. Of course, today, there's a name to it, the death doula. So tell us about your company, and I want to know, your company's called Going with Grace. Are there certifications, for example, to become a death doula? How does one become a death doula? And
We
tell us
teach
about your company and what all that involves. I understand, you do a lot of paperwork too, besides being there for the person, but in the family. But tell us about that.
We do. Going with Grace is an end of life planning and death doula training organization. So we train death doulas on the one hand. We've trained over 2,500 in 17 countries so far, which is so exciting to me that this
Yes,
work is really worldwide at this point.
huge.
There's no official certifications anywhere, but there are programs that you can take. And I suggest that if anybody is interested in learning how to become a death doula, you find a teacher that you really resonate with and somebody who's doing the work the way that you're interested in doing
Mhm,
it out there in the
mhm,
world.
mhm.
And so you take the course, you get a certificate at the end of the program, and people call themselves certified when they get a certificate at the end. That's fine by me. There's no official certifying bodies for death
Right, right,
doulas,
right.
but I
Mhm,
suggest that anybody who's vaguely interested in supporting themselves or their community members or their family members
mhm.
come to get death doula training because they're skills that we don't learn in school. We never learn how to care for people when they're dying.
Right.
And it's wildly important that we do so. Very important.
Yeah, that's
Very
great.
important.
Mhm,
So we
mhm,
teach death doulas at Going with Grace. We also
mhm,
offer services for people that want to do some comprehensive end of life planning. We can hook you up with a death doula in your community. We also offer a lot of courses and workbooks and workshops for people that want to build their own relationship with their mortality, people that
mhm,
are working through fears of death or anxiety around death,
mhm,
people that just want to find ways to insert more relationship with mortality in their life so that they
mm,
can like live a little bit more fully. So
mhm.
anything related to death and dying we can do at Going with Grace, and we love to support you, whoever you are in your quest to find ways to be with mortality in a meaningful way.
Okay, I love that. Live in the now. You have to live in the now.
Absolutely.
And you know what? I read an article where it said there's a Fortune 500 company that has death doula as a part of their benefit plan. I
Yeah.
love that. People, that should be more worldwide. Let me tell you. And
Yeah.
from where I
Absolutely.
sit, because you need help. You need help. Families need help, and then you have to also embrace the caregiver themselves, who a lot of times they don't know what to do, and they're drowning themselves by
Yes.
they haven't been trained, and here they are hugging this person and going through life with them at the end of their life, and damn, what do you say to the caregivers?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it's important that we have death doulas for this exact reason. Somebody who's not as emotionally invested in what's happening,
Mm,
somebody who can be a supportive person, somebody who can think a little bit more clearly because their emotions aren't all wrapped up in it, somebody that can support the caregiver in what it is that they're doing. Oftentimes, we're coming in to support the dying person, but sometimes my job is solely to care for the caregiver, to
mhm.
say, you are doing this right, and this really sucks, and you need some resources, or I think you need a day off. Let me come and do the things that you would do today so that you can take some
Oh,
time for yourself. It's
mm,
massive. It's
yes.
really supportive. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I
I
love that. I want to talk about death anxiety. My background is TV news. So, I mean, over the years, I've seen so much death and destruction. And then it started impacting me because when my husband or my sister, when they leave, I'm like, oh my God, please let them be okay. Help them come back. And then if you've lost a loved one, it kind of paralyzes you in a little bit emotionally. So, do you deal with the death anxiety for people who are not on death, or not going through something like that?
Absolutely. It's a very, very normal response to witnessing a death, witnessing a lot of death. There's a lot of deaths happening right now around the world that are getting broadcast into our homes and into our phones.
Mhm,
That is very difficult to watch and to be with. It's a very normal response to have a heightened death anxiety yourself when in that circumstance. I think death doulas can be supportive in that way and helping people get to the root of it. First of all, name it because that's important, and then
mhm,
help people get to the root of it to see what it is that they really fear and how
mhm.
they can find ways to move through this earth so that death anxiety isn't as crippling. But I understand it. It happens. It's a normal response to
Mhm,
this life that we lead and to the death
mhm.
of somebody that you care about to start worrying about your own or that of other people.
Right. It's very, here again, life is tricky. Now,
Mm.
we're wrapping this up. Now, I saw a recent Instagram post of yours where you were celebrating your birthday, and it was a profound, beautiful post. And I have to read you guys what she says. She says, "Work." She's like, and this is what she's celebrating on her birthday. Work that fills her spirit, the opportunity to be alive. She's still here. Grieve for those that never saw 46. Grieve for those that never got to see the age of 2.
Mhm.
And yet here I am, still with my breath. I'm getting chills, still with the capacity to feel grief, the opportunity to be alive, still here. And then you wrap and you said, happy, griefy gratitude birthday to me. I guess happy birthday. Oh my
Thank
God. Oh my gosh, I love that. That is
you.
just, yeah, yeah. Um, you're so good, and that's why we talked about the adaptability. So this book is a lot. It's for everybody. It
Yeah.
can, for everybody, because it's not just about dealing with someone who's on on their deathbed.
Yeah.
It's about living life, living in the now, as we talked about earlier. But I have one final question for you. Where do you find your joy, Alua?
Oh, wow. So many different places. I find it with my niece, who's 15 now. My brother-in-law's
Right,
daughter.
right.
She just did a makeup tutorial for me today. She helped
Oh,
me
I
glam.
love that.
Love
Yes,
that, love her.
yes,
Our relationship is still really great. She's in the other room. I get to take her to beach day with her
right,
friends.
right,
I
right.
find so much joy in my partner, in love, in like backstroking in love, and like the depths of who I am. Find a
Yes.
lot of joy in the wind on my skin. Like a breeze
Mm,
came through last night, and I was like,
mhm.
"Wow, that felt so good."
Right.
The color yellow. There are these lemon trees in my backyard,
Oh,
and
oh,
th
oh my
I know
goodness.
it's so gorgeous, they look kinda like that. My
Right.
nails are really beautiful lately, it just makes me really happy. I think
Yes, yes, the
finding
little
joy
things. Right.
the little things about being alive, because the big things come and go, you know?
Mhm,
There are big moments of joy, there are deep moments of sadness, there's a lot of
mhm.
heartbreak and anger and frustration and all those things, the whole gamut of human emotion, yet when I can whittle it down to, like, the minute things that make me joyful to be alive, that can
Right.
be consistent, so I look for that often.
I love that. Yes, and somebody was asking me about self-care the other day. I said, "Well, I am a big investor with the car wash, the local car wash. I spend $20 a month that I
Yeah.
have unlimited, tickets to
Nice.
go in and out. Self-care, and that's a joy. That brings me joy sitting through there. It brings me joy. And a new tube of
Absolutely.
lipstick, of course. I can't.
Love.
it's,
It's the
a-
little things.
it's the little things in
Yeah,
life.
yeah.
And I just love it. I just love your brand. I love you.
Thank
You're
you.
phenomenal. Thank you
Thank you.
so much for
It's my
this.
pleasure.
Yes, yes. You were even talking to Alua Arthur of the New York Times bestselling book, Briefly, Perfectly Human. Thank you so
Thank you.
much for coming on the show,
Thank you
Alua.
for having me. This is great.
Thank you. We'll share all of your contact information, including where we can get your book and more in the podcast description. Thank you so much. I'm so happy about this. It's a tricky subject, but so
We got
needed,
it.
right?
Yeah,
We
absolutely.
did this. We
And
did this.
there's life in it too. There's a lot of life in talking about death.
Right. And that's what you talk about in your book as well.
Yeah.
That's why I said everybody. This is for everybody. This book is for everybody. Seriously, I cannot wait to read the entire thing. Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Ageless Glamour Girls podcast, where we talk all things aging on this wonderful, transformative, and occasionally challenging aging journey. Please don't forget to subscribe to our show and subscribe to the Ageless Glamour Girls YouTube channel. That's where we're going to post the video from this podcast. If you want to join the conversation and be a guest on the show, whether or not you have a new book or not, email us at info@agelessglamourgirls.com. That again, it's info@agelessglamourgirls.com. And check out our private Facebook group, The Ageless Cafe. We're also on Instagram and other social media platforms. And please don't forget to grab a copy of our new book, an Amazon best-selling anthology, Ageless Glamour Girls: Reflections on Aging, where women talk about their journeys, things from what brings them joy, to becoming a grandmother for the first time, to dealing with death, how childhood abuse will impact you as an adult. it's good stuff. It really is good stuff. Now, if you get the book, leave us a review on Amazon. And we're also now collecting names for our second volume, volume 2. Yes, please. So drop us a line at info@agelessglamourgirls.com if you're interested in being a part of our second volume of Ageless Glamour Girls anthology. Again, I'm Marquita Curtis. I'm the founder and CEO of the lifestyle brand Ageless Glamour Girls and podcast host. Thank you so much for being with us, everybody, and sharing your stories. Keep on sharing those stories, preferably with us, AGG. No, I'm just kidding. Just keep sharing the stories. Seriously. Hashtag ageless wisdom. All right, everybody, here's to healthy aging and joyful living. We'll see you again real soon. Bye-bye for now, lovies.